friends. Dr. Panikot. How are you? Hello.
Hello, how are you? So Murthy sir, you came from
Bangalore.
all the way?
Yes,
Only for this function?
Yes. I am a life member of the ISIM and I was in the EC for about 6 years.
Very nice.
Only last 3 years after moving to Bangalore, I haven't come to
Without your visit, this society will be like this. Life member.
Yeah.
Life member is how we present.
life members.
To give life to the ISI.
While working in NHRC, I joined this ISIL and then I was in regular touch and we started the events and
NHRC is the regular news
Yeah.
service. NHRC is essentially legal community. My view is very different about human rights. I think it's more to do with human than with the law. But these days everything.
On and off the dais, Executive Council members, esteemed speakers, participants and dear students, a very warm welcome to each one of you on this significant occasion as we gather here to celebrate Human Rights Day through a thought-provoking and enlightening 2-day seminar. As we mark the Human Rights Day, we acknowledge the universal relevance of Declaration of Human Rights, a milestone document that proclaims the inalienable rights to which every individual is inherently entitled. 75 years ago, on 10th December 1948, the United Nations General Assembly adopted this historic declaration, setting forth the vision of a world where the inherent dignity and equal rights of all members of the human family are recognized and protected. Our distinguished speakers, experts in their respective fields, will shed light on contemporary issues, share insights and propose solutions that can contribute to the promotion and protection of human rights, and from the challenges posed by technological advancements to the issues of social justice, gender equality, environmental sustainability, development agenda, our program is quite comprehensive, reflecting the diverse nature of human rights in the 21st century. So before beginning the inaugural session, I would request everyone to please stand for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल नायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you so much. To begin the inaugural session, I would first request our President, Shri Praveen H. Parekh sir, to felicitate our chief guest, His Excellency Dr. Mulay, with the bouquet and journal and publications of our society. I would also like to invite our Secretary General Sir, Shri Narendra Singh Sir, to felicitate Mr. Darrin Farrant, Director, United Nations Information Center for India and Bhutan. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite our President, Shri Praveen H. Parekh, sir, to deliver the welcome address.
A very good morning to each one of you. I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest and all the participants who have graced with presence of this momentous occasion. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our chief guest, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. D.M. Mulay, Member National Human Rights Commission India, and our guest of honor, Mr. Darrin Farrant, Director, United Nations Information Center for India and Bhutan, and Mr. Narendra Singh, the Secretary General of ISL, and my dear friends and the participants. ISL is delighted to celebrate this day of 10th December and is organizing a 2-day seminar to discuss the importance of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Human Rights Day is observed internationally every year on 10th December to commemorate the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 by the United Nations General Assembly. This declaration was proclaimed a common standard of achievements for all peoples and all nations. It is very, very necessary that it is required, and it is required in every country, but there are many countries where it is required much more than where it is not being followed at all. And that is why we should remember one day in a year, but we must function all the 365 days, and that is very, very important for us to do this. And the human rights is not only a talking about it, but it should be functioning and working and ensuring that each and every of us will do something or the other to have the human rights to be used, to be get by each and every human, because as a human he must have these human rights. Although the declaration UDHR is not a legally binding document, it has acquired a customary status under international law and has inspired more than 60 human rights instruments constituting an international standards of human rights. Our constitution in India enshrines fundamental rights that lay down the fundamentation of human rights in India's democratic framework. It is a lot of works are given. There is Article 14 here. We have got this equality that all people, good or bad, yes or young, and each and every person, the poor and the rich, is very, very important of the human rights, and that is there in our constitution. But I must tell you that our Supreme Court has interpreted and has and always seen that these human rights is used by the government, maybe central government, maybe state government. There are other corporations, etc., who are state, and all of them are forced to do. And by and large, if you go in the whole world, India is reasonably very good for the human rights. Our constitution enshrines fundamental rights that lays down the foundation of human rights in India's democratic framework. These rights are the very spirit of our constitution: right to equality, prohibition of discrimination on the basis of caste, sex, religion, right to freedom of speech. And when I say sex should not have equality, but women should have more than the equality, because they need it, and it should be given, and it should be extended. And we are very happy that the women here are having extremely good thing. There is nothing, by and large, is not a problem, and our women are also extremely good by their own rights, and therefore we are very happy. It is relevant to highlight the unique role played by our Supreme Court in upholding the human rights spirit time and again. Our Supreme Court has delivered hundreds and hundreds of judgments till this day, a lot of times conferring fundamental rights in the favor of the citizens to make sure their dignity remains protected, and it's quite impossible to list all of them which have been delivered by our Supreme Court. I would like to mention a judgment of Visakha versus State of Rajasthan, wherein a more purposeful interpretation of fundamental rights was adopted by the Supreme Court, and it was stated that as long as the International Convention of Human Rights aligns with the fundamental rights and the spirit of our Constitution, the conventions can be and should be taken into consideration to enhance and broaden the objective of human rights laid down by the Constitution. Another example by the Supreme Court in Railway Board's case, where the Supreme Court highlighted the importance of UDHR while widening the scope of Article 21. The Indian Society of International Law is dedicated to gaining a deeper understanding of international law while promoting the values of our Constitution. In the Indian society, we have got the teachers, we have got the students, and there are all other parties, all those who want to participate are part and parcel of Indian Society of International Law. The National Human Rights Commission and the United Nations Information Centers also work towards establishing and protecting people's civil, social, economic and political rights in their respective domains. Both institutions have worked towards this objective without fail and have set several exemplary examples. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to everybody present here today. The day which marks the 75th anniversary of one of the world's most groundbreaking pledges, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The theme identified by the United Nations for this year is freedom, equality and justice for all. And justice for all is very important, and we must all try. Each one of us can do something or the other, and let us all do something for justice for all. And I am sure that the deliberation in the next 2 days will reflect upon several aspects. I sincerely thank each one of you, ladies and gentlemen. I especially thank the members of the Executive Committee of ISL. I would also like to thank Mr. Narinder Singh, Secretary General of ISL, and all the members of the ISL for making all the excellent preparations for this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's my honor to introduce Mr. Darrin Farrant, Director, UN Information Center for India and Bhutan for all of you. Sir has 30 years of experience in public information and communications, including 19 years with the United Nations. From 2012 to 22, he was Special Assistant to the Under Secretary General for Global Communications. Later, he served temporarily as the Acting Chief of Office in the Office of Under Secretary General DGC, a field office of the UN Department of Global Communications. The UN Information Center in New Delhi provides services to India and Bhutan. Sir has been on other UN assignments, including being a speechwriter in the Executive Office of the Secretary General, an editor with the UN News Center, and the head of communications for the Secretary General's panel on the referenda that led to the independence of South Sudan. In addition, he has extensive experience in crisis communications, campaign development, and strategic planning and coordination. Prior to joining the United Nations, Sir was a journalist, reporter, and the editor for in Australia, the United Kingdom, including the Age of Melbourne and the Times of London. Sir holds a bachelor degree in law and arts from the University of Melbourne. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Praveen Parekh, President of the Indian Society of International Law, Darrin Singh, Secretary General of the Society, and Dr. D.M. Mulay, Member of the National Human Rights Commission. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, students, friends, good morning. It's an honour to be here with you all today to join you on behalf of the United Nations as part of your seminar to celebrate Human Rights Day. And I'm especially honoured to be with you this year because, as you heard, in 2023, we're celebrating a document that's very dear to our hearts. This year is the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, our global Magna Carta, if you will. 10th of December 1948 was an auspicious day. It was a Friday. The UN General Assembly was then gathering in Paris, meeting in the Palais de Chaillot, not far from the Eiffel Tower. In those days, the General Assembly hadn't yet settled in its permanent home in New York. There were fewer than 60 UN members at the time. Just one day earlier, member states had unanimously adopted the Genocide Convention, and so that makes today the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the victims of the crime of genocide and prevention of this crime. So now the UN delegates had gathered to adopt the Universal Declaration. Given this milestone, it's appropriate that I'm in a room like this, because lawyers were central to both the drafting of the Universal Declaration, to its crafting, and then to its global implementation and its understanding. Also intrinsic to the document's development, India. I expect I don't have to tell you that Hansa Mehta, the renowned reformer, social activist, feminist and author, is responsible for a crucial change to the text of the Declaration. Indeed, it's because of Hansa Mehta, who was one of the delegates during the framing of the Universal Declaration in the late 1940s, that the phrase, "all men are born free and equal," became the opening line that we know and cherish today. All human beings are born free and equal. And I'm sure you also already know that the Universal Declaration is understood to be the most translated document in the world, with more than 550 different versions from Abkhaz to Zulu now in existence. Another translation was added to the list just this week, Indian Sign Language. This version will be made available with subtitles in all 22 scheduled languages of India, so that no matter what corner of the country you come from, you will be able to understand the Declaration. The production of this translation is the result of a wider effort by the team I lead, the United Nations Information Centre in New Delhi, to make the United Nations and its work and documents more accessible to persons with disabilities. And indeed, last week we just celebrated the International Day for Persons with Disabilities. Inclusion, of course, is a concept that is increasingly part of all of our thinking, whether we are serving as UN diplomats or as lawyers, as our notions of just who we are expand. So in that sense, the Universal Declaration was a landmark well ahead of its time, proclaiming the inalienable rights and intrinsic dignity of every single human being, no matter what. No longer could it be argued with any moral seriousness that your nationality, your ethnicity, your gender, your race, to name just a few characteristics, made any difference or makes any difference to your inherent values. In 30 simple articles and a preamble, the Universal Declaration outlines the fundamental rights and freedoms of people, of all of us worldwide, and our shared aspirations for a planet where justice and dignity prevail. Those rights and freedoms include, of course, the right to life, liberty and security of person, freedom from torture and slavery, and the right to work and an education, to name just a few. The Universal Declaration is therefore not only a legal document, but an ethical compass that should guide all of us towards a world where human rights are continuously respected and protected. And for India, with its rich and long-standing tapestry of cultures, religions and traditions, the principles that infuse the Universal Declaration should resonate with extra force and impact. Indeed, India's own constitution, which came into force in January 1950, just 14 months after the Universal Declaration, reflects that commitment to upholding the rights and dignity of each and every citizen. As in every country, however, the words on the page may be wonderful, inspiring and uplifting us all, but it's the implementation that really counts, and by which we must be measured. This is where I have to make a call to action today. As legal professionals, you play a crucial role now and in the future in advancing the cause of human rights and ensuring that the Universal Declaration is so much more than just pretty phrases. Whether it's through judicial decision-making, advocacy, litigation, or education, you have the power to help shape a more just and equitable society that lives up to the fine words of the Declaration. Now that is sometimes very challenging, especially today in an era when it feels like so many people are working around the globe to undermine human rights. But it only makes our assignment that much more important. We must not lose hope or determination. I now have the honour to read out the official message for Human Rights Day from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and I quote, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights." There's Hansa Mehta again. The iconic opening sentence of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is as important today as it was when it was adopted 75 years ago. The Universal Declaration is a roadmap, helping to end wars, heal divisions, and promote lives of peace and dignity for all. But the world is losing its way. Conflicts are raging. Poverty and hunger are increasing. Inequalities are deepening. The climate crisis, indeed the climate emergency, is a human rights crisis that is hitting the most vulnerable the hardest. Authoritarianism is on the rise. Civic space is shrinking and the media is under attack from all sides. Gender equality remains a distant dream and women's reproductive rights are being rolled back. So today it is more important than ever to promote and respect all human rights, social, cultural, economic, civil and political, which protect us all. The Universal Declaration shows the way to common values and approaches that can help resolve tensions and create the security and stability that our world craves. As we work to update global frameworks and make them more effective in the 21st century, human rights must have a unique and central role. So I call on Member States to use this 75th anniversary and the Summit of the Future next year to strengthen their commitment to the timeless values of the Universal Declaration. And on Human Rights Day, I urge people around the world to promote and respect human rights every day for everyone, everywhere. That concludes the Secretary General's message. His words, I think, are particularly resonant right now at a time of so many conflicts and crises around the world, from Gaza to Ukraine, Syria, Mali, Sudan, just to name a few, and from the fights against climate change, poverty, hunger, to the battles against gender-based violence, inequality. I would like to thank all of you for your time today, and I wish you the very best for your deliberations today and tomorrow during the seminar, and for tomorrow especially, a happy Human Rights Day to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very kind address highlighting the role of UN Information Center. Now it's my privilege to introduce His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Mulay, Member, National Human Rights Commission. Sir served as a diplomat in the Indian Foreign Service from 1983 to 2019. He is a renowned author, motivator, and a former secretary to the Government of India. He has huge experience and expertise at national, local, and international level. He has worked in Ministries of Finance, Commerce, External Affairs, and Cabinet Secretariat. Sir joined as a member of the National Human Rights Commission in 2019. He also served as a secretary, CPV and OIA Division, Ministry of External Affairs. And under his leadership, 410 passport offices were opened in the country as a part of taking passport office to every Lok Sabha constituency. From a mere 77 passport centers in the country, the number in 2019 stands at 510. Sir created a strong framework to help Indians stranded in the overseas countries. Framework created would ensure that no Indian suffers in distress in any overseas location. With these words, I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Mulay, sir, for his inaugural address.
Good morning and namaste to all of you. Shri Praveen H. Parekh, President ISI. Shri Darrin Farrant. In India we can use Shri. Director, United Nations Information Center for India and Bhutan. Narinder Singh, my former colleague and now Secretary General of ISIL. And I see lots of dignitaries in the first row and my student friends here. To all of you, a very happy Human Rights Day. It's wonderful to be part of this wonderful program that has been organized by ICIL. And congratulations to all of you. I hope that tomorrow really means a new beginning in the human rights chapter or saga of India and the world. Well, for me, I'm not from the legal community, and I do feel that legal community has more or less appropriated the entire human rights sphere. The better for us would be to spread human rights to every section of the society. I do not have a law degree. I come from humanities, and therefore I do feel sometimes that I have somewhat better appreciation of human rights, not human rights law. I must clarify that very clearly. So let me give you my perspective, and I'm really grateful to India for giving me this opportunity to work in the Human Rights Commission for the last 4.5 years. So as I do understand now the legal jargon of human rights to some extent, but I'm not completely carried away by it. So I'll just go over the major milestones of human rights discourse in the world. Yes, we do start from UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The word human rights came into currency after that. But does that mean the human rights never existed before? When we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, what does it mean? The whole world is a family. In Marathi we have Sant Dnyaneshwar who says that Vishwachi Mache Ghar, which means the whole world is my home. What it means is everybody is the member of my family. This is our house, a common property, not to be appropriated or monopolized by one person, and we share it. The modern UDHR came after the devastating impact of the Second World War. India had no direct connection to the Second World War, but we lost about 2 million people in the Second World War. So it shows that there was some regret and repentance after the Second World War and the destruction it caused, including Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that we needed a different world. We wanted a world which has peace, which provides freedom and justice. And from that realization, it came. UDHR, arrived. I also recollect in this discourse the contribution of Ashok, the king, Emperor Ashok, who after the war renounced the war. It was the first, I think, beginning of the UDHR, and then he, declared, he had his own declaration of human right throughout his kingdom, where he kind of set his own code as to how human beings should behave, how they should protect trees, how should they behave with each other. And he was perhaps the first ambassador in the global context who sent his monks as the ambassador of peace. I don't think there is a greater example of human rights in history than what Emperor Ashok did. I'm just telling you so that we see it's not something new. It's important, it's significant, because what are the current 3 major issues in the world? But before that, let me go to the next one, and I'm glad that Darrin did mention about Hansa Mehta and Lakshmi Menon's contribution, because Lakshmi Menon and Hansa Mehta ensured ultimately that there is no he and she, there is everyone as a substitute. I just wonder what must have made these 2 ladies to think about this paradigm shift. in 1940s. The reason is, parallelly we had this independence movement going on in India. The dawn of independence was already somewhere around, and there was a huge discussion going on right from 1920s in India as to what kind of India we want. It was not 1 day or 2 years discussion in the parliament, in the Constitution Assembly. Well, it was going on for years, and everybody was expressing their views, and through that great churning, which was in a sense churning of civilizational thought, churning of human thought, churning of how are we supposed to be ruled and how we should rule, what kind of country, vision of a country. And even then India had a huge mass of population, more than 500 million people. So that intellectual discourse ultimately, and along with UDHR draft available at that time, India promulgated its own constitution in 1950. I think it's a major milestone, not in India's history, but in the world history of human rights. Because if you see the wording in the UDHR and our own constitution, you see a number of similarities. Whether justice, freedom and equality is, of course, the kind of strong pillars even in the introductory, what we call the introduction of our constitution. And then, of course, you have the entire UDHR structure called this covenant of economic, political, social rights, and then also political and civil rights. They all get reflected, cultural rights, they all get reflected in the Indian Constitution very, very effectively. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Indian Constitution is also a document of human rights. Considering the diversity of India, the cultures, the traditions, the way people even practice various festivals, the diversity of religions and religious practices. Because within one Hinduism, you have so many different diverse cultures and practices. So to bring that all together required a very comprehensive document, and therefore I consider Indian Constitution as a very huge milestone in the history of human rights. The third milestone, 1993, we have made some progress after independence, and you have NHRC, the act of PHRC, PHR, Promotion of Human Rights Act, Protection of Human Rights Act comes into effect in 1993. And again you will see this is a fairly comprehensive act. It's of course completely in harmony with the Constitution of India. It's completely in harmony with UDHR, and it does lays the emphasis on right to life, right to liberty, right to equality, and right to dignity. So it's a very again comprehensive document. But what is special about our act is it has both strong software and hardware. Hardware is the act itself, the infrastructure that we have, and the software is the ability to enforce various human rights in India. You perhaps may not be aware that the Indian NHRC has so far given solved more than 12 lakh cases, and it has given compensation of more than 250 crores since 1993. This is a very significant thing. In fact, I do not hesitate to mention here that Indian Human Rights Commission, in terms of size, in terms of manpower, and in terms of resources, is the largest in the world. A fact that very few people know, a fact that very few people highlight. And I think it's very important that if India wants to be the Vishwaguru, we do highlight these strong aspects of the kind of legal framework that we have, the legislative framework that we have, and the software and hardware that is available in India to conduct or to implement human rights very, very effectively. So the next milestone in my view is the SDGs. Because SDGs is nothing again but a document of human rights. And I always feel that if you have there are 17 of these, fairly long list, very difficult to remember. But if today we can implement as an entire humanity the first 6 of them, no poverty, zero hunger, education, health for all, gender equality, and finally water and sanitation to everyone. If we really can have the ability, and we are really a very good, the world is moving towards great economic progress. If we really are serious about our business, we must address these 6 very seriously. We cannot allow the gender inequality, we cannot allow poverty anymore. So much of prosperity is there, why should poverty even have a place? But the world is made very unequal. We know that India has no voice in the United Nations Security Council. It's unequal. If 1/6 of the humanity is not represented in the Security Council, then who else will? How will the voice, great step by India in G20 to accommodate the African continent into the dialogue of G20. This is the way to go forward. If we can't really feel that we are all one, we can't really achieve these things. So in my view, SDG is a milestone document that really is a human rights document. Coming back to India, how have we handled human rights? When we became it is India 75 and it is UDHR also 75 this year. So it's an interesting coincidence. And I do feel that India has done rather well. That doesn't mean we are perfect. I don't think anyone should pretend that they are perfect. No one. Well, I do not consider any democracy anywhere in the world to be perfect. Democracy is a work in progress. You have no issues, new issues coming. Technology is changing, our lifestyle is changing. The way we are destroying the earth, that is really, today alarming. So you cannot have a static. You do have even some progressive countries having retrogressive laws, and you have even not so developed countries having very progressive laws. So what is important is to exchange best practices. So coming to India, as I said, NHRC itself is taking a proactive role. We have a fairly strong outreach program. We have something called camp sitting, where entire NHRC goes to one state, sits there for 2 days, 3 days, takes up the cases of that particular state and tries to solve the problems there itself. NHRC has, as some people say, it's a toothless tiger. We don't agree, I don't at least agree with that. We can give compensation to the victim. We can also suggest action against erring officials. So both are there. I think that is what is required for anything. And I must say that compliance of NHRC's orders is about 99%. I'm not sure what is the compliance of judicial orders. We get about 1,100,000 complaints every year, about 85,000 to 90,000 cases NHRC resolves every year. This is something that we need to project to the world. But this is not to say that we don't have problems. I do believe that if we're getting 100,000 complaints with us, maybe 1 million complaints do not come to us. Because as long as there is equality, look at today's newspapers and you will see 2-3 things. There is somewhere in some part of the country, bride of belonging to scheduled caste was not allowed to carry the procession in front of the house of a village head. Seemingly very simple thing, but it does reflect a great malaise that still exists in our society. We have to take action. We cannot say that we are well off and we are sitting in the city or lawyer's chamber. We have no responsibility towards these issues. Because unless that happens, Gandhiji used to say that I wish to wipe every tear from every eye. Can we really do that today's India? I think we're still far away from that ideal and from that goal. But I do feel that in the coming years, in the coming decades, we go towards that. In this context, I really feel that Article number 1 is extremely important. And besides that, Article 30, Article 1 is widely known. But Article 30 implies that no one, no authority whatsoever, and when you say no, the emphatic no means no. So no authority ever can take away your human rights. The reason is they are natural, they are, you are born with them, and if that is the assumption, then it's very important that we understand the significance. We in the Constitution have fundamental rights, fundamental duties, we also have directive principles, but above that we have a strong culture of respecting each other, having diverse religions, diverse customs, diverse practices, diverse languages. And coming to the cultural rights, it's very important that we all also preserve our languages. 50% of the world's languages are in South Asia, Southern Asia. And this is a wealth, the value of which we have not yet realized. The essence of human rights is preserving diversity of everything. Diversity of plant life, diversity of languages, diversity of cultures, diversity of wildlife, diversity of even insects. Because there is a food chain that has been there, which has been created by the earth after several million years of tapasya. We cannot be destroying. We cannot be a change agent. Should not become a destroying agent. So that being the case, if you see today's most important issues, number one, economic development, it cannot be without achieving equality. Very clear. But the fact on the ground is that 10% of the people of the world have 90% of the wealth, and remaining 90% have only 10% of the wealth. It is more or less same all over the world. All over the world. So it's not that it is one country it is like this and another country is almost like that. The second crisis that we are having is the climate crisis or climate opportunity, whatever you call it. Because if you're a businessman, you say climate opportunity. If you're normally suffering from the impact directly or indirectly, and if you're a sensitive citizen of the globe, then you would see that it's a disaster that in the making, not in the making, we are all making it. Even this bottle here that is there, the bottled water bottle, it's also contributing to the human rights. So that is the second, most important challenge that we have. And third one, look at Ukraine, Russia, look at Gaza and Israel. We seem to be perpetually fighting with each other. Though there are lots of countries in the world where there is no war and there is a lot of peace. But still we have very, very strange differences still persisting. In a country like US, you have still racial discrimination. You have sometimes shocking news like the reversal of abortion law in the US. Nobody discusses about that. So there are inequalities in every place, every country, including our own country. And we have to continuously strive to do away with them. In the end, I would say that yes, human rights is really about sarve bhavantu sukhinas, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhagavet. To my young friends here, I would like to say that think why you are doing law, if at all you are doing law. Is it to make money for one appearance, taking 50 lakhs and 20 lakhs and 30 lakhs? Or is it, do you want to see India a better place in the world? Do you want to see India as a Vishnu Guru? Do you want to see India as, I'm not bothered about 10 trillion economy. I'm bothered about everybody having, the basic things. Good infrastructure, good water, good job, and doing reasonably well. And pani, nivara, sab kuch milna chahiye, har ek ko. That is India of my dreams, and that is perhaps also the India of the dreams. So do visit an orphanage, do visit an old age home when you have time, do visit a hospital, acquaint yourself with grief, despair, disagreements, distressed places and people. Acquaint yourself. That is how one day enlightenment will come and you will all become your own Buddhas. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. In a very short span of time, you have actually given a master class on the evolution of human rights and human rights law to everyone, and also discussed the role of NHRC. We are very grateful to you, sir. Now, I would like to invite our Secretary General, Sir Shri Narendra Singh, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Good morning. Honorable Ambassador Dnyaneshwar Mulay, Member, National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Darrin Farrant, Director, UN Information Center, Mr. Praveen Parikh, President of the Indian Society of International Law, Dr. Kishore Singh, former UN Rapporteur on the Right to Education, members of the Executive Council of the Indian Society of International Law, distinguished professors and academics, practitioners, students, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this two-day seminar on human rights on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. We have heard from our distinguished guests on the importance of the Universal Declaration. Ambassador Mulay has highlighted the work of the National Human Rights Commission and in particular the problems facing the world today, the conflicts around the world, the environmental harm which is being caused, all of which affect human rights directly, including the economic disparities. And in particular, he highlighted the Sustainable Development Goals, and he identified 6 of those SDGs. Happy to inform that one of the presentations in the seminar is devoted exactly to this issue, the Sustainable Development Goals and human rights. And he also highlighted that human rights is not a matter of law alone. Human rights is an issue of governance. It covers every phase of life. And human rights must be implemented not only in laws, but also it should guide how these laws and policies are implemented. And human rights must be a common thread running through every aspect of governance, economy, and society. I thank also Mr. Darrin Farrant for his views on the Universal Declaration and giving us some of the background and history, and for the wonderful message that he brought from the UN Secretary General on the occasion of the Human Rights Day. He also highlighted several of the issues and what needs to be done, and that human rights are indivisible and they are fundamental in the governance. Mr. Praveen Parikh, President of the ISIL, we thank you for the continuous support and the guidance you have given in organizing this session, this seminar, and in guiding all the activities of the society. I also thank all the members of the Executive Committee for their contribution to the conference. I recognize that many of the Executive Committee members and distinguished professors from Delhi and from other places are going to make presentations and share their knowledge and experience with us during these next 2 days. We also have a number of practitioners who will be sharing the practical experiences and how the human rights are protected in the Indian courts and what has been the record of our courts in protecting human rights. Now, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, as was emphasized by both Ambassador Mulay and Mr. Farrant, was that this was the result of the lessons drawn from the two world wars, from the Holocaust, the atomic weapons, the enormous destruction which was caused by the use of the atomic weapons, the economic devastation and generations of colonial exploitation, oppression, injustice and bloodshed. And the Universal Declaration was conceived as a roadmap to a more stable and more just world. They reminded us that human rights are inherent to every human being, and that leaders who ignore this truth, they place at peril the people they are meant to serve. In addition to this, they highlighted the increased conflicts around the world where civilians are being targeted and they suffer death, destruction and deprivation of the most essential human needs such as food, water, medical supplies and other essentials on a massive scale. Our attention was also drawn to the importance of a healthy environment for the full realization of human rights. And this is an issue which can no longer be ignored. Human rights require that those responsible for climate harm, for environmental damage, should be held accountable for remedying them. And it is time, according to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, he has said that it is time that we ensure that environmental destruction carries criminal sanctions as an essential deterrent, because it is the future of our planet and coming generations which are at stake. So with these words, I thank everyone. I thank our distinguished guests and our panelists, the professors, the students, the EC members for their presence here and for their participation and contribution to the seminar. And in particular, I would like to welcome the students of the Kingston Law College from West Bengal. They are here in a large group and they will be with us for both days of the seminar. So thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we close the inaugural session and we'll begin with the preliminary session in about 10 minutes.